Hi, everybody, in case you don't know me and aren't looking at my name on the screen, because I can see it's right there. I'm Dory Chattel, and I am the executive director of the nonprofit Medical Education Institute, which builds and maintains the Home Dialysis Central website and the accompanying Facebook group, which you are absolutely welcome to join. We hope you will. And we are simulcasting to the Facebook group. So, our sponsor for this webinar is Fresenius Medical Care, and we are so glad to be here with you today to talk about nighttime dialysis, which can either be peritoneal dialysis or PD with a cycler, or nocturnal home hemo. And this topic gives us a chance to talk about how home therapies can give you back time during the day to have a fuller life and do more of the things that you want to do. And both PD and nocturnal home hemo can be done safely at night while you sleep. And we'll talk about that more too. So our subject matter experts today are Christina Gilchrist and Michael Gilchrist and Jen Ravert, and I will have each of them introduce themselves a little bit. So, Christina, let's start with you. I'll just call on people that way nobody has to guess who should talk next.
All
So
right.
just tell us a little bit about you. It doesn't have to be your entire life story, just whatever you are moved to share at this particular moment.
All right. So I am Christina Gilchrist. I've actually been at this since I was 12 years old, but I didn't go into kidney failure until I was about 22. And when I was 22, I got pregnant, lost my eyesight and my kidneys. So that started my whole kidney journey for real.
Yeah,
And
that
my
is a journey, all right.
yeah, and what's crazy is I gave birth to a 3 pound, 12-ounce baby girl the same day, and she was actually born with no intestines. And so she went to one hospital. I was at a different hospital, and
You
it
must
was,
have really had an extremely challenging year after that. I can't even imagine.
well, to be honest with you, I don't remember much of that year because it
That
was
makes all of the sense. It
it
really
was so
does.
hectic. And like it when I was at the hospital, I was so medicated that I was seeing some people, I was seeing other people. I didn't see my daughter's dad coming to the hospital. And I ended up learning just shortly after I got out of the hospital that I got custody papers. But so that's how I learned that we were not going to be together anymore. But I went on from there, and to be honest, that was the best gift I ever received, those custody papers, because after I had just been through what I went through, like there was no way I was losing that baby girl. And so
No.
I had
Well, and
no.
that
Mhm.
vote of confidence from the system that, yes, you can take care of your baby.
Well, the interesting thing is I got blindsided when I went to court, and I got told that a blind person should not be a parent, and that I had not done anything for that child. And this man was just so nice to have dated me. And if I didn't get a job or something by the next court date, I would lose her. And to be honest, like I always tell people, I got a lot of bad luck, but I got a ton of good luck because I had some really good luck and I ended up getting full custody of her. And so honestly, like after that, I'm like, well, I can handle anything, I got my
Exactly.
baby. And
Right?
so my big brother gave me my first transplant on December 9th of 2008. And unfortunately, I ended up having disease reoccurrence. I did not know at the time it was disease reoccurrence, but it was. And my disease came back so much, I had to have that kidney removed. And so
You have a form of FSGS, right?
no, I have C3G.
That's right. That's right. I knew I had read about it, but I
Yes,
was getting
but
the
I
little,
have
okay.
it's not the normal C3G. So I have a strain that's never been seen before, which
Way to be unique, Christina.
I
I
was
know, isn't
gonna
that
say we
fun?
know you're unique, Christina, but way to be.
Believe me, I'm not trying anymore.
I know, right? Like, yeah, no, I've taken all the arrows I need this lifetime. Now I would like
Can
some
I
smooth
please have the
sailing.
normal thing for
Yes,
once?
yes, yes. Let's just take lame and like normal easy. I can handle that.
Easy, boring. It's good.
Yeah. Well, I ended up doing 5.5 years in center. And those were 5.5 years in center as a single mom. Not just a single mom, but a
Wow.
legally blind mom. Because I was completely blind for about 6 months after all the seizures happened. And I went on some medication. It started improving. And basically, I was left with, I have no central vision. So if you
Wow.
look at the sun, you have like
Mhm.
that mark on your vision. I have that. It doesn't go away, and it's just bigger than the sun. And so I have to look around it in my
Mhm.
peripheral vision. And so technically, I am legally blind. So that took out all driving. So, like dialysis for me, I had no time to recover afterwards. I was walking a mile to my daughter's school, walking her to the park the other mile because I was a silly mom that wanted to put my daughter in everything so she didn't think she had a sick mom. And so I was taking her everywhere. And I was just doing it on zero. I literally was in my 20s. I watched all my friends get married. I watched them all go on vacations together and go camping together. I was barely surviving. And I was very lucky that after 5.5 years, I got that amazing phone call. So May 7th of 2016, I went and got my second kidney transplant. And this time we're hoping that my body will react different because it's a cadaveric transplant. It's not a living
Mm.
donor.
Sure.
And unfortunately, well, I can't say unfortunately yet. Um, so I got that kidney, and me and my daughter, it's interesting because when you get sick, most people don't realize your life goes on pause while everybody else is in play. And so you're trying to keep up with the world around you. You can barely keep up with what's going on with your body. And it is hard to juggle all of that. And so me and my daughter, we sat down and we talked. My daughter was 10 at that time. And we decided it was time to press play. So that year we went on our first ever family vacation. She got for
Mhm.
Christmas, she got some luggage, and inside were tickets to Disneyland. And we
Oh.
literally, yeah, we flew out the next day and went to Disneyland. And I'll tell you, it's a horrible time to go to Disneyland. So don't go the day after Christmas ever.
Right, but that surprise must have just been everything.
It was, and I didn't have to worry about dialysis. And I had had previous times where I tried to go on vacation and other
Something went
centers,
wrong.
it went wrong. Yeah. And so I wasn't able to keep vacationing. And so this was my first one really in years. And oh, it was everything. I got to just enjoy it with my daughter. Yes, it was so slammed and it was crazy, but it was just me and her by ourselves. And that had never happened before. It was amazing. So we went on that vacation and then we talked about me starting to date. And so shortly after we got home, a few weeks after, my daughter comes to me one day. Keep in mind, she's 10 years old. And she says, "Hey, mom, I found a date for you this weekend." And I was like, "Where did you find a date for me at? Like, what do you mean?" And she goes, "I've been getting on your Facebook account. I've been talking to a guy."
Oh my
Uh-huh. So worst mom on the planet. I'm like, "Oh, honey, that's like a creeper you're talking to. Like, you can't do that." And so I have her read. I know, right? She reads these messages to me, and this guy is actually decent. Like, he was not inappropriate. He was just having a conversation. And what's funny is he didn't realize it was a kid because
God.
she responded to so many things with, "Yeah, sure," or just, "Okay," or just like one or two word answers. And he kept going, which was really cute. But so I
Right.
decided, okay, I'm going to start talking to this guy. Maybe we'll see if he's really legit. And so I started talking to him, and that weekend he calls me and he says, "I can't come." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And he's like, "It's okay." He's like, I'm a single dad and my daughter really wants to go." And I was like, "I'm a single mom and my daughter really wants to go." And he's like, "Okay, let's do it." So we went, and like that day, like it was amazing because before that I had cried in the bathroom thousands of times thinking, I am going to be alone. I don't want to cry around my daughter. So I just cry by myself in a locked room, thinking I'm never going to be good enough to marry for someone to marry me. I'm never going to be good enough to like,
Nobody will want me like this.
I'm broken,
Hmm.
and not just broken, like I am broken big. And in my
Yep.
mind, like I was just never going to meet someone. And that night we walk out, my daughter jumps in the back, I jump in the front. I look at this man who is adorable. And then I look to the back
Aw.
seat He's so cute. His cheeks were all red. It was winter, so he was yeah, it was really adorable. But I looked to the back seat and I see this little girl she's 12 years old and she looks identical to me. And I'm like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "My name's Sadie." And I was like, "Well, hello, Sadie." And I think that in that moment I was supposed to meet that little girl and I was supposed to become a mother figure to her because I just fell in love with her. I fell in love with her, and she caught me when we were going to a big city to walk through what we call a Christmas village, and it's not the best neighborhood. And so Mike had forgot something in the truck, and so the girls were like, "Hey, we'll just walk down to the end of the road, and you guys can catch up with us." And I was like, "Oh no, honey!" And she looked at me and she goes, "Well, come on, together we're 22."
Ah,
Because Tyler was 10 and she was 12. So she says, "Together we're 22. We'll be fine." And I was like, "Okay, I love her." I was like, "That is hilarious. And she's smart and I like her a lot." And so we joke that basically our kids hooked us up
It sounds
because
like it.
my daughter got us the date. His daughter made me fall in love with her. We actually moved
Oh,
his daughter in probably like 2 or 3 months before we moved him in. So he had to come visit his daughter at my house. And you guys are probably all really shocked that I ended up marrying that man. And that man's name is Michael. He's on the call. And so how crazy is that?
and
That our
I'm
girls,
loving the hot pink shirt so much.
I know, doesn't he look so good in pink?
Love it. Yes, it is
I know.
awesome. You look terrific. And also super envying that blue sky because we do not have it here. It's clearly gone to the other side of the country.
Ours is going away. We're like literally in hours we're supposed to start getting snow that will just dump on us for days.
We keep talking and we're having a great conversation, but I'd like to have Michael tell us a little bit
Yes.
about your story, and then I'd like to have Jen introduce herself, and then I have some questions, assuming we ever get that far, which we may or may
There
not.
we go.
So,
All right.
my story's pretty much I saw a really hot chick on Facebook, hit on her, and that started all of this. Um, I grew up with a handicapped sister, so I kind of knew the care partner aspect of it. It was mostly PD. She did a majority of it on her own. She did a big portion of it on her own. My job was just to make her laugh. That's it. And there were too many people in her life telling her, "You're gonna die, you're gonna die, you can't do this." And my philosophy was, hell with that. If you're gonna go out, we might as well go out with a bang and have the time of our lives. She had so many people telling us she can't do this, she can't do this, she's never gonna drive again. So I'm like, hell with that. Let's take you up to the mountains, slam you in my truck, and just get driving. And if you ever want to be petrified, drive an ATV with a blind chick. And we do it every summer. And
And you're
pretty
all
much,
invited. You're all
yeah,
invited. Come to Utah.
I mean, it sounds like a blast.
pretty much my job
I would crash
was
for it.
to keep living our life that we had when we first met.
And
And that meant
that is
accommodating for
exactly
dialysis,
that's
getting
exactly the
batteries.
topic
Yeah.
today, really.
So, yeah.
That's why we're talking about nighttime dialysis, because I think it has the best chance of letting you do exactly that.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, Jen, why don't you tell us a little about your background because it's always interesting.
So, for one, I'm also a single mom and I put myself through nursing school as a single mom. So, I have so much respect for all of the things you've done because I've also done really hard things and different hard things, but very universally accepted hard things and go you. So I came into nursing school as a single mom, and the reason I went into nursing school was because my grandmother had been on dialysis, and then my stepdad had been on dialysis, and then my best friend had been on. Everyone like kidney patients just find me in my social life, and that's kind of how my life has worked. So I've kind of just followed the universe, and now I ended up here after being a home training nurse for 10 years. So I've now been program director with MEI for 3 years, 3.5 years. And prior to that, I worked in center, I worked acutes, and for the most part, I trained PD and home hemo. It was my favorite. thing it's an awesome thing to teach people because you kind of give back the
Them.
ability to
You
have
give
time
them life.
in your
You give them
yeah.
life.
And it's
Yes.
great to see people rise to that occasion and do amazing things.
Well, and you give them quality of life,
Yeah,
which is different than just, okay, you can still drag yourself to your car,
Yeah.
It's, you
right.
can still maybe raise a child, get married, go on vacations, work a job, you know, have what we mostly consider a life. So, Christina, when you first started dialysis, you were in center because your clinic did not trust you to do PD
No.
by yourself. They're like, oh, you can't see, you can't possibly do PD.
I
How,
was actually never even spoke to about PD. They never even brought it up. I had somehow heard PD. I didn't know what it was, but I knew there was like this PD out there somewhere. And so I
Mhm.
asked my doctor one day, I was like, hey, can I do PD? And he was like, no, silly, you're blind. And I was kind of like, okay, because at that time I had a lot of people telling me I couldn't
Right.
do a lot of things. And so honestly, I just accepted it because that's kind of
Yep.
what you think you have to do. You're grown, you're raised to think that like doctors, they know what they're doing. You respect
Mhm.
them, you treat them with respect. And when my first doctor messed up, I didn't honestly, there was no thought in my mind about getting a second opinion because I believed so much that doctors were inhuman. And it's interesting now because at the time it seemed so normal just to think they were invincible. But
Mhm.
like now that I'm older and I've obviously seen things, I know that they're humans as well. And yes, they are very distinguished and intelligent humans, but they are still humans. And so you
Right.
have to, for your own benefit, stand up for yourself. And
Yep.
after I lost my second transplant, that's when I found my gusto. And that's when I started going around to doctors saying, I'm going to do PD, whether you like it or not. And they're like, nope, you're blind. Nope, you're blind. Nope, you're blind. So I had to go to multiple doctors. And finally, I went to a doctor and I explained my vision perfectly. And I was like, I really think I can do this. Give me a chance. So
Mhm.
in training, like we focused on out of the box stuff. For example, you have to have a sterile connection with your lines every time. I can't do that with my vision. But what I can do is I can fill my pinkies. I can line them up and roll my fingers, and it's perfect every time. And so I did. I ran my own PD. I did PD for 3 years. I set it up, I broke it down, everything. And I was very adamant that Mike not help me because I was worried that he would beld just like my daughter's dad belled. And so I was going to do those. And I did 3 years. And honestly, guys, like I had no idea that life was possible on dialysis. And I truly mean that. I thought I was so bad in center and I was functioning at such a low capacity that I just thought, oh my gosh, this is all dialysis is. You'll never be able to live and feel good again and experience things the way you should. And
Unless you have a transplant,
You
because
were
that's
hoofing it
that's the
yeah,
home
big
from
part.
the clinic for a mile.
what?
You were
Yeah.
walking home from the clinic for a mile.
Oh, no, I went from the clinic. So there was a nonprofit that drove me back and forth
Oh,
to the
good.
clinic, but I would drive from my house to my daughter's school is a mile. So I would get up in the morning, walk her to school, and then walk home, and then get picked up, go to dialysis, do dialysis, come home, walk back to the school, walk back.
Wow.
And then, like, the girl was in soccer, she was in dance, she was in cheer, you name it, she was in it. And so every day we had something. And to be honest, it was really important to me to be present in my daughter's life and to be to everything. And that was so hard to do within center. And
Right.
I felt like I wasn't able to be the mom I wanted to be. And when I went on PD, not only did I feel better, but I could now, like, I'm taking my daughter to soccer practice. I'm not dying under a tree in the shade. I'm actually out there, like, get moving, lady. I'm going to kick your butt if I catch you. And I'm playing with her. And that's the mom I wanted to be. And what PD gave me, it gave me the person I always wanted to be. It gave me the ability to take care of my body, to enjoy getting married on PD. I had a catheter under my wedding gown. Nobody knew that. The only thing that was difficult about PD is it is difficult in the beginning to get used to sleeping on PD.
Hmm.
And So in the beginning, you have what's called like a drain pain, and this is just when the tube in your abdomen kind of sits against a wall, and so it's sucking against the wall, and so you kind of
Oh.
learn. Yep, and so it's not a crazy suck, but you definitely feel it, and so you learn how to lay. And I learned eventually that my right side, if I laid on my right side when I was draining, I wouldn't get any drain pain because my catheter must have been up to the left side.
In
And
some
so,
Hmm.
pocket.
yep, you learn exactly where it's at. So then your body, it got to the point where I was doing drains and my body would flip over and do it, but I'm not consciously thinking about it at all. I would just roll over and do it the right way automatically. And
And something I'd like to add too is that we got adjustable beds, and that helped Christina a lot, where she could raise her feet, raise her body,
Oh,
stuff like
sure.
that. And she was able to maneuver and walk around the house a little bit. We kind of joked that she would be able to get far enough, as we placed the machine in the middle of the house, where she would be able to get stuff out of the fridge. She'd be able to walk around. She'd be able to go in the daughter's bedroom if she had a nightmare or something like that. We kind of joked that she would be able to make it to the sink to get
no, I
water,
made it
but she
to I made it to the fridge, but I couldn't make it to the sink to do dishes.
yeah, so those are mine.
Darn. What
Yeah.
a
Sucks.
shame. Shoot.
Wasn't that awful? I could make
You
it in
When
the
that
know,
happens,
Yeah,
if
the
you
fridge
can't
was just
reach the
right in
sink, I
reach.
guess you're off dish duty.
you just can't have it all, I guess.
Right? Sometimes, medical does come first.
Oh, definitely. Very important.
But
But
it is,
so,
it's important to note that you figured out the positioning of your cycler based on what is going to give you the most amount of movement at night as needed for a mom, for
yep.
someone who, likes to go to the fridge and get a snack.
Did
Yeah,
you
exactly.
have tubing extensions?
I did not. I
Oh,
had just a
wow.
regular line.
You did that with the regular lines. That is
Yeah.
wild.
I know, and it's how my house is set up. It's kind of perfect to where I could get to the
Hmm.
kitchen, to the bathroom, to my
Yep.
daughter's room, and to my room, and it was like
Right.
that's all I needed.
Yeah.
So, so
That's so
yeah, and
convenient.
and honestly, with PD, like most people don't think about it, but you can cap off during treatment,
Right.
cap it
Right.
off, and go
Right.
do something for an hour or two
And then reconnect.
and reconnect, and it's going to
Yeah.
drain like normal. So, if it's something where you can't sleep, then easy. Just do your fills, go walk around for a while, then drain it. And it was very able to make it work with my life. And
Right.
that was my key with home dialysis is I wanted to feel like I was living. I was doing these things for a reason. And that's exactly what PD gave me. It gave me life. And then after I found out PD wasn't working anymore, I was like, oh no, get us in for training now. We need home hemo. And so we got in for training, and Mike switched to nights. And that's when he started the group, the Living on Dialysis group. And he more or less started it because he kept getting kicked out of groups because he would go on a page and say, hey, how can we do this? How can we go camping and do dialysis with no power? And they're like, what are you doing? You're giving people false hope. So people kept telling him, we're kicking you out. You're giving people false hope. Like you can't do this
Yeah.
stuff on
We
dialysis.
don't believe in false hope. Hope is
Yeah.
hope.
Hope. Yeah,
Where
exactly.
there is a
And
will,
Well,
there is a way.
Exactly.
well, and then I kind of want to say too that Christina was very hesitant about allowing me to do her dialysis.
Sure.
She felt that she didn't want to put me through it, and I'm like, what do you think you're already putting me through? I'm the one having to carry you in from dialysis. I'm the one holding your hair while you puke every night. I mean, because in-center is great for some people. It was not for Christina. It
Mhm.
it it beat her up, and that's where I set her down. I'm like, listen, I'm already going through this with you. We might as well get the best type of dialysis possible, and that's where we started the training, and I became eyeballs for dialysis.
yep. And going
Well,
home
and
on
then
chemo was like I had already been prepped from PD.
right.
And so honestly, we did hemo during the day, which I will tell you was one of the hardest things in the world for us because Mike works a very strenuous job. And so he works for our government and it's very confidential and like he works a serious job. And so when he comes home afterwards, he's got to be able to run dialysis for 4 hours. And so it felt like he was going to work all day. He'd come home, we'd hook up for dialysis. We'd get off by like 8 or 9 and then throw in some dinner and go to bed. We were just, it really was like, how do
Didn't
we
allow
fit
a
it
lot
in?
of me time.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was doing 4 days a week for 3.5 hours, which guys, I felt wonderful. I felt even better than PD, which is insane because I didn't think it got better than PD. And so we did that for a year during the day. And then, of course, I want the best of everything you can have. And I don't
Right.
know for sure if I'm going to get another kidney, because my body's destroyed two of them. And so I need to really do some serious thinking before we attempt it again. And so for me, dialysis might be life. And to say that I found this treatment that I can literally do while I'm sleeping. I can
Mhm.
wake up in the morning and be me all day long.
Right.
Like
And
you,
I kind of want to say too that one of the hardest things I think starting this was cannulating and getting past the fear of cannulating. Now, I'm a care partner. I don't know what it feels like getting those needles, but I also know what it feels like when I've infiltrated or I have missed. And that takes a big beating on your self-esteem. And we
Mhm.
kind of joke that now I can, right now she has a CBC, but back when she had a graft, I used to joke that I could roundabout that thing from across the room. And you
Jen
get to
does the
where
Jen has
you
the
get
exact same joke.
well, and you get to where you get to where you wonder why you ever let anybody ever cannulate yourself.
Right.
Yes.
And if I actually have some videos on my group where if you chevron your needles correctly,
Hmm.
those things are not coming out. You can yank on
Exactly.
those things. And
That
Yeah.
yes, PD prepped her for holding still while she was doing dialysis at night, but it also prepped her for doing hemodialysis.
it is a very good transition. After you've learned PD, learning hemo, actually, you've got a huge foot in the door already. So that
I've
transition,
said this forever. Absolutely.
hmm
yeah,
hmm
I mean, these are
I
all transferable skills.
yes, they are. And
Well,
honestly, like we all know PD doesn't last forever. And so my thing is why are we not, when we're starting PD, being told about home hemo and to
Right.
yep.
start looking towards that? Because it's
Yeah.
not a forever thing for anyone. And if you get 10 years
Unfortunately,
out, that's amazing.
Fortunately, a lot of people don't realize that PD is rarely a very long-term therapy. I do know some people who did it for 8, 10, 15, in one case, 18 years, but that is vanishingly rare.
They're rare,
Most
yeah.
people get, if they're lucky, they get 2, 3 years out of it. And then, so one thing I think we need to do is tell more people that up front so that
Yeah,
they
I don't think
realize
there might be people watching who don't know that PD is not a lifelong
it's
permanent
not
modality.
permanent. Right.
Yeah.
And
And
it can
that's
be an
just
amazing bridge. It's a
it works
great
great.
place to start. It's a great place if you've got a donor lined up and you know you're not going to need dialysis for a terribly long time.
Mm-hmm.
But what we find really unfortunate is folks who think that they're going to start on PD and that's going to be it, and they're going to avoid needles and everything's going to be great and they're just going to do that for the rest of their lives. And like,
And
that's
then everything gets thrown upside down when they realize I can't do PD anymore. What
right,
option do I have now? And so
right.
yeah, that looking forward. And nowadays these companies have been so kind to us, and we have so many videos on the internet of how to use the home hemo machines, and like you can do so much studying now ahead of time and come
Right.
into that prepared. And
Yep.
then that transition will be smooth if you plan for it. And you're already going to feel awful because I didn't realize how bad I was feeling on PD
Right.
until I was on hemo, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, and I'll tell you though too, I it hit me very quickly the in-centeredness to dialysis. I got back to being frail and sick and nauseous all the time and having all the symptoms, the cramping and everything. I got back to that very quick, and most people don't realize when you're home, you're doing a totally different form. It's the same dialysis, but by slowing it down and making it
Hmm.
more natural, like everybody else gets. Everybody else gets 168 hours of dialysis in a week. When you go in center, you get between 9 and 12. They are
Right.
running that machine as fast as they can because they know
Yes.
they have to, because they got to keep
Right.
you alive. When you
Yeah.
go home, you slow it down, you do it more often. Your toxins don't build up as much, your fluids don't build up as much. It's funny because
Exactly.
when I was in center, my fluid gains were astronomical. Like they were horrible. And now last night I did dialysis and we took off zero 0.8.
Wow.
And
Oh,
that's my average, that's my
That's
average
and you
goal
had a
now.
night that was a nocturnal treatment.
Yes.
right.
So your UFR was like 0.1.
0.1. Yeah.
And that's how
Can't
it
even.
always is. Yeah.
It's
That's
awesome.
And if I
yeah.
could give a piece of advice too on the PD aspect of it,
Mhm.
when you are going in to get that PD tube placed, make sure you have that surgeon out where they're going to place that, and then
Yes.
walk around because
Know
Christina,
where your jeans
you can
are.
see,
Yep.
yeah, you can see Christina. She is very shopping inclined. She buys absolutely everything, and she has to have the skinny
It's
jeans.
my one
And
talent.
Hey, girl after my
it,
own
I like
and
heart.
being
she,
fancy too.
she excels at that talent. But it was placed right where her pant line was.
Right.
And I kind of joked that we critique our shoes more than the surgeries that we have.
Right.
And make sure, make sure that surgeon knows exactly
Yeah.
where they're placing that and put it somewhere where it's going to be comfortable.
And
That
also,
is such a good, that's such good advice.
I had a PD catheter placed in my chest
Mm-hmm.
so I could get water.
A
And
pre-sternal
so,
catheter.
yeah, a PD catheter.
Mm-hmm.
They ran it in my abdomen, but they ran it
Yep.
up through my body and it came out my chest. And
Right.
with me being legally blind, it was super close so I could see it to
Mm-hmm.
actually keep it sanitary. It was easy just to tuck into my bra. And
Right.
I got to get in water. Yeah, I didn't
Yes.
Right.
get all in
You could
water.
take a bath. You could dip your legs in
Yes,
the
Yeah.
pool. Mm-hmm.
yes. And so really like if there's something you want to do, like there's find a
There's a way.
workaround. You
There's a
know,
way.
keep sanitation, obviously, that's always at your forefront. But if you can find yourself a safe and effective way, then why not?
I was going to tell you because I think you would appreciate this, that the very first patient that Bob Lockridge learned home hemo, a nocturnal home hemo for. Like he went to Canada for a week and he studied with the Toronto folks so that he could bring nocturnal home hemo back to his patient, this one that he had in mind, and then obviously more over time. And that was, I think, 1998 or 1999. She's still alive doing nocturnal home hemo.
Yeah, and what
It's
would be the
been,
odds of her still being in center?
oh, there's no way. He
Yeah.
went there to learn that because he could see that she was failing in center and he wanted to save her life. And he brought that therapy to the US and spoke all over the country to tell people about it. And there was a parallel program in, I think, the Cleveland area at the same time, brought it back like almost exactly the same time, but they didn't share it like he did. He was so passionate about it that he helped
He wanted
everybody
to
find
scream
out
about
about it.
it.
Yeah, but she is still, as far as I have heard, she is still alive doing that therapy.
And like what a gift is that? Like he didn't just help her. Like
Right. No, he
I've
helped every patient after her and a whole lot of people. He helped you.
yeah,
He
that's what I'm
brought it
saying.
here and it spread and that's why you had access to it when you did.
And honestly, I ended up finding out later the disease I have, I overproduce scar tissue. And so
Oh,
being on dialysis, dehydration can cause your scar tissue just to go ham. And
oh,
so that's why I was so bad in center because I was literally living on dehydration all the time.
right.
I
You were
I
either
was building
overhydrated
up.
or
Yeah,
underhydrated. You were never normal.
never.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's why in center was so hard for me. But doing these home options, like I never would have made it to this day without
Hmm.
finding home. And I know that for a fact. And
Right.
I didn't even know it was a scar tissue issue back when I started home. I did home for 4 or 5 years, at least
Yeah.
4 years before I finally even got diagnosed.
our
I went
bodies
over
are
30
always
years.
more complicated than we realize. Michael, you mentioned taping, chevron taping, and that's critically important for safety with nocturnal hemo with the needles in at night. What else have you done to, I mean, a lot of the objection that we hear from people is, oh, I could never do that treatment at night. I wouldn't trust that everything would go well. What if I don't hear an alarm? What if a needle comes out? How were you taught? How did you deal with the safety issue? And I would love Jen to comment on that also.
Basically, it's the extra alarms that we have. I always suggest if before you even consider nocturnal, you do about a year of home hemo just so you can know that machine
Hmm.
because it is extremely overwhelming doing just home hemo.
Yeah.
And I get messages all the time of I can't do this, I can't keep doing this, and I tell them just hold out because when it clicks, it just clicks, and it seems like it's overnight of you have all of those alarms and you're panicking and you have 3 minutes to address all of this stuff and then it's like overnight where you're like we got it
All of a
and
sudden you can
Something
fly.
clicks. Yep.
Yep.
yeah all of a sudden we actually kind of joke that 3 minutes used to go like that and now we kind of joke that I can go make a sandwich, I can put my feet up for a minute. Of course we don't, but it's kind of the joke of
Right.
there's nothing that we can't address.
Right.
And the worst thing that can happen during dialysis is you clamp off and
And you're
you
done.
disconnect.
Right.
And, there's additional alarms, there's a red sense that detects any fluid.
Hmm.
And, the best thing about Nocturnal is that I can go to sleep right next to her. I have my iPad, I have, and I compare it to the sleeping of having a newborn baby. I'm
Yeah.
asleep, but
Yes.
I'm not.
Little bit
I'm
vigilant during the
always
night.
just kind
Yep.
of glancing
Yeah.
at the machine, and I am sleeping. And every other night, like tonight, I will catch up on my sleep. I have
Hmm.
a eye mask that I put on, and I will actually zonk out. But it's amazing knowing that if there's an alarm, you will wake up to it. That has
Hmm.
never been an issue for us. And, God forbid, if there's ever an issue where something happens, Christina knows just to clamp off,
Right.
you
Right.
know. Christina said that I work for the government, and we all know that there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And I could be called up and be sent wherever. And I know that any care partner can come in and help Christina with her dialysis.
Right.
And
And
Christina knows every single step.
And
Hmm.
with the machine, it now has the guide me. And so literally I
Yes.
could bring anybody in my family over. I could have my daughter come in and read it because I know how to set it up. I know how to do it.
Hmm.
And if they just read it all to me and we could totally do it without him. And how cool is that?
Can you self-cannulate?
I can't
You have a
because I
catheter right now. You don't even need to
yes.
right this minute. That's right.
So my graft was in
Mhm.
my basically in my armpit, and so it ended up it was in a really bad place, and it's one of those things like Mike was saying, wear it for a little while, see if you like it. They put this in my armpit, it ended up getting infected because it's
Shocker. Who could have seen that happen?
I know, right? Well, that spread to my heart and ate a
Oh,
hole in my heart. Yeah,
Oh
it
man.
ate a hole in my heart, so I had to have open heart surgery.
oh my gosh.
It was in 21. I went in and again with the scar tissue thing during that period of time, I was getting a lot of validation that the scar tissue was an issue. The
Right.
doctor said a 2 hour surgery turned into an 8
Ooh.
because when he got in there, the outside of my heart, my pericardium, was
Hmm.
squeezing my heart to death because of all the scar tissue surrounding it.
Right.
And so he said he had to take my heart and peel it like a potato. And
Hmm.
it just took him hours just to peel all of this stuff off my heart. Well, a year
Wow.
before that, I had gone to the hospital with seizures and they sent me home saying, you're fine. A month and a half later, I went back and I had a rock in my abdomen. We ended up doing surgery and it was my appendix. My appendix had burst a month and a half earlier. And somehow I lived through it. They said I had
I
to
do
have
not
been
know how they missed that.
well, I don't either. But they said I had to have been on antibiotics at the time for at least 2.5 days, or else I would have died from the toxins, which we're on antibiotics a lot as patients, it happens.
Right.
And
Right.
so that antibiotic saved me. But I
What
guess
a lucky
Something,
break.
something I'd like to say too about when she did have her heart surgery, we were actually begging to go home because the dialysis in the hospital, she was pretty much getting in-center, and her body wasn't
Was
used to that.
making her worse.
So
Yeah.
she was gaining more and more weight. And when she left the hospital, she was up about 20 pounds. And I was able to go home, do pretty much back-to-back treatments. In 3 days, we were able to get all of that off.
Oh.
And it's things like that where the best care was at home.
Right.
Yep.
It's crazy. You can have that big of a complication and then have that much fluid on, and you are in the place that's telling you that is where you are safest. So,
Yep. I actually had to have one of the nights they were doing
but
dialysis,
nocturnals were, mm-hmm.
and they kept getting clots in the machine because they weren't using heparin. And so I kept telling them, like, hey, like, you can't do it like this. And we're telling them how to do it properly. And I ended up having to get a blood transfusion in the morning because I had literally lost so much blood during one treatment of dialysis, which that would never happen at home.
No.
No.
You know yourself best.
Yeah. And I do have to throw out really quickly that 2 years ago, 2 days ago, so 2 years and 2 days ago, Mike and I got the best gift of our life. It was a gift that I never ever thought I'd be alive for, and we became grandparents. So 2 days ago, we celebrated my granddaughter's second birthday. And guys, like, when I was in my 20s, and
I have chills.
I was told I had 6 to 7 years that I would probably live with my daughter. I wasn't going to see her graduate. I wasn't going to see her go to college. I wasn't going to see grandbabies. I've seen all of those. And it's because of home. And so I always tell people, like, home is scary at the beginning. You are thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Stop thinking that. Give yourself time to slowly pick it up and just take a chance on yourself. Because truly, if you are willing to follow the steps that you are taught, you can succeed at this.
That's the thing too, is that people don't realize that me and Christina has a medical background because she's a professional patient, but I have no medical background. And we kind of joke that if a gun mechanic and a blind chick can do this, anybody can. Here in about 2 weeks, we're actually going to be going to DC for a week, and we're actually going to be advocating for kidney disease and stuff like that. But we'll be grabbing our machine. We already have the supplies that are going to be delivered there, and we'll be doing treatments while we're in DC. We have a bunch of other trips planned. We have camping trips planned. We have all of this stuff planned. And it's kind of like I said when I first met Christina, what's the point of doing all this if you're not going to be out living, having fun, having the time of your life? Biggest thing is ask your patients or your care partners what you want to keep doing.
Yes,
and
exactly.
One of those answers is, I want
what
to be
did
doing
you
this.
do before that you can't now?
What matters to you? What brings you joy? What makes your life worth
What are
living?
you living for? Are you living for family? You want to be to their events, their schooling events, you're going to your granddaughter's soccer games. Those things are really what matters to us. And so ask them what really matters and what's going to get you doing those things again.
Yep. And in case y'all didn't see the palm skis before, because they're the cutest things on earth. Yes, you can have a dog and do PD or do home hemo. You just have to take some extra precautions.
Yeah, you just have to be, honestly, just be smart about it. Don't have them in the room when you're hooking up, like, just be careful and keep things nice and clean. And it's what we do anyways at our home. So
I just want to jump through this screen and pet those babies. I wanted to give folks who might be in the Facebook group or might be watching a chance to ask some questions. So if you want to put any questions in either the Q&A or the chat, we are happy to address them. And otherwise, I think that
I do have to tell you, while we're letting people put questions in, I had a very interesting thing happen a couple years ago. I had been doing Nocturnal for about a year and a half, And I had started working on my scar tissue, going to therapy and actually like working my body and stuff to break down scar tissue. And about a year and a half into Nocturnal and working on the scar tissue, I had a day where we have some property in the mountains in Utah. So we were up camping and it was morning time and I stepped out of the trailer. And when I stepped down, I kind of had all these like clouds go over my vision. And I looked up in the tree, and at that point, to me, green and blue were the same color. I could not
I
tell the
know what you
difference.
mean. Yeah.
Well, I look up in that tree and I saw like 7 different shades of green. And it
Wow.
literally looked like the world was in neon. Like someone had flipped the switch and said, "Here, see better."
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of think that I may have a scar tissue issue around my eyes. And I think my vision is starting to improve. How
That is
crazy is that?
that is so great.
Insane though, right? I've been legally blind now for 21 years
Mm-hmm.
and it's improving. And it's improved a lot. We actually retired this guy and then we got Khaleesi to be his friend at home so he wouldn't be lonely.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, it doesn't
You
not
never
amazing.
make
know.
sense. You get so much more treatment and
Yeah.
there's so
You
much
have
less
no
that has the
idea
capacity to build up. And who
yeah,
knows if what and how
what
things
kink will
affect.
go away. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yep. So honestly,
Yeah.
like the way I see it is I may never be a transplant patient, but there's so much hope in this kidney world we are all working on together. There's so much hope and there's so much coming in the future that like all of us have so much to look forward to.
I think that you are right about that. I am not seeing a lot of questions, so if we have other things we wanted to mention, I guess your Michael, your care partner job changed a lot with Nocturnal versus PD because you took on some more of the tasks than you had been doing. And then you started this group to kind of support, I think, other people who are supporting patients. What sorts of things have been most helpful to keep you going doing the things you're doing so that you can help Christina do the things she's doing? What's made a difference?
Uh, Mostly it's a team thing that we have. Where if I have an over stressful day at work, Christina Christina knows that I can just call her and say, "Hey, set up the machine, or do your tasks while you're doing other things. You're going to go put laundry in the washer. Start by priming a cassette while you're
Right.
doing all that stuff. While you're
Mhm.
making dinner, prime a cassette. While you're doing this stuff, do your other items as well. You know, when we first started this process, my life got put on hold. I had a thriving career. I was wondering how I'm going to be, I'm burning the candle at both ends, wondering how I'm going to keep doing this. And I had a lot of friends that I made throughout this process, and they helped me basically by saying, just keep doing what you're doing. It gets easier. And it really does. At,
But you should tell
there
them
are
about like
times.
you should tell them about work and how like you would show up from like you would leave the hospital and all night I was almost dying. I was so bad and you would have to go to work and then everybody at work is like, "Oh, Mike got to come in late." And
I, I really, at work, I quickly became the guy that was always falling asleep in the break room. I quickly became the guy that, Mike is always late. Oh, it must be nice. Not knowing that I was holding Christina's hand a couple hours earlier than that and then having to go to work because I have to work. And, it's kind of weird because you, Christina, when she had her heart surgery, I was back at work that next day because I have to go to work. And not knowing that my wife is in the ICU
Mhm.
recovering from heart surgery, but yet you have to continue living your life. And that was the hardest part was trying to balance act all of this. And I will actually credit Dialysis and home hemo and Nocturnal. I will credit Nocturnal for helping me get the promotions that I have now. I am not sweating and hanging under an aircraft anymore. I'm actually at a desk job now where I tell people how to hang off the aircraft. And I have credit
Nice.
all of those things
And honestly,
for
like
the discipline that I had.
I saw a transformation in Michael because a lot of people never knew Michael before. He was very, very shy, very quiet, and very timid, I would say. He was always stern and kind of, but he was very shy and people didn't know it. And I think he was stern to kind of show them. But
Mhm.
like when he started doing my dialysis, it's like we say he Micified dialysis.
Aw.
And it's true because he, for example, like our burritos, we once a month put chucks all over our counter. We put everything
Oh,
on each one
yes.
for an entire treatment, and then we
Oh,
roll them up,
packs. Yeah.
put them in a box. Yeah, we call them burritos because
Mhm.
we just make little burritos out of them. But like
And
things like that make doing this so much easier.
Yes. Try
another
and
piece of
get this
advice
stuff each day.
is another piece of advice is join a support group. I like
Yeah.
ours. I think it's very positive, but I do not care what support group you join. Usually, any of them that you join, I'm already in, anyways. But you think you're alone through this process, okay? And there's certain things, me and Christina, we were a young married couple, and there's a lot of questions that come with that. There was a lot of sexual frustrations because that's just some of the stuff that comes with dialysis.
Yep.
And think you're alone. If go in the group, go ask people the questions. Because especially in my group, if you come and ask a question, I can find hundreds of people that are going through the exact same thing you are that can give you advice to go and advocate for yourself when you have that doctor's appointment.
Right.
That Christina, she is very, very capable of doing home dialysis. The first impulse of the doctors when we asked them if she could do home dialysis, home hemo, she had a catheter. It was an immediate no, you cannot do that. And because that was the immediate answer that the doctor wanted to give. After,
Mhm.
Going and asking them, it might have helped that I'm tattooed and bald and look like I'm going to beat anybody up. But I went and approached the doctor again and said, "This is Christina."
Oh, he might have a jet going overhead.
Oh,
So
yeah, that
yeah,
could be. I,
he's
I
like,
was
oh,
I was gonna say I tend to notice that in couples there's an extrovert and an introvert,
Yes.
and you're obviously an extrovert, Christina. But Michael actually also really has struck me as being an extrovert, and it sounds like that wasn't always true. And he's
nope, that
become
wasn't.
more extroverted so that, you know,
What's crazy is we both come from a family of 9 children.
oh wow.
We both lived within a mile of each other, and we both went to same schools.
Oh my
But
gosh.
none
And
of
you didn't meet until your kids
well
introduced.
after, yeah. None of
Wow.
none of our family knew each other. All the siblings and everything, like we all like, and it's probably like what you said. His family's they're really shy and they're really subdued, and my family is like we're in your face. Like I was head cheerleader for years, and
Uh,
like my brothers were all officers, and it's just what we were loud. And so, but we never knew each other. And how crazy
wow.
is that? I know. So it
Yep,
was really,
that's
it was really
wild.
meant to be like him messaging and yeah, and he messaged me. His message was, we have like over 100 mutual friends. Do we know each other? And I was like,
Oh,
how
that's
do we
wild.
have so many friends? I was like, who is this guy? Crazy, right? But I
Well,
always say I like to talk to patients and tell them that I expect more out of them than just going home and letting their care partners do everything.
oh,
These are
absolutely.
these people, and this includes our care team, these people are
Yes.
bending over backwards to help us live the best life possible. And so,
Hmm.
if there is anything I can do to step in and
Right.
help Michael, say I walk over and just, I'm going to go prime the machine. So
Hmm.
Mike doesn't have to do it tonight. And so, patients, like, this is our treatment, and we need to remember that. And just
We,
because someone's helping us doesn't mean we can
yeah,
sit back and do
that
nothing.
is a message we share very, very often.
Yep. And
And
honestly,
And
like the relationship that Michael have and I have gotten from this, like I loved him before, But like going through this with him, we've had to work out kinks here. We always joke and say he's the only guy in the world that can be like, "Hey, Christina, you definitely gained weight," you know, and I can't get mad
That is another piece of advice that I like to give as well is when you're going through this, you're going to have a lot of doctor appointments, you're going to have a lot of interactions, and there's a time to let your pit bull out, and there's a time to rein it in. And I actually have a lot of friends, and Dawn is one of those. Dawn Bates, she's a
Yeah,
advocate. She actually
Dawn
travels
is
all
great.
over the country in a trailer, and she's my person that I call when I'm having issues or I feel I'm getting overwhelmed. And
Mm-hmm.
she will tell you, okay, put the pit bull away. And there's times where she says, you know what, it's time to let that pit bull out. Because there's times when
Oh,
she's in
that's
the
so
hospital
great.
and I have to advocate for Christina. And
Mm-hmm.
I do not look like I know a lot about that dialysis stuff. But I'm probably one of the most educated in, I would say, the country now, between me and Christina. And I
Mm-hmm.
could go toe to toe with all of these doctors of why the care she needs, what she needs. And actually, when she was in the ICU and they were doing regular, regular dialysis on her, I actually had to go and debate with the doctors of, okay, that's fine, but I want to extend this treatment. I want to make it this treatment. I want to, it was, she pretty much did continuous dialysis when she was in the ICU because it was the best care for her. And
Right.
it was kind of a modified continuous because we made it throughout the night.
Yeah.
And you have to go and advocate for yourself and ask questions why, and always double question the professionals because they may not be thinking of something that may work. In fact, I was just talking to a patient that said they can do nocturnal, but the care partner has to stay awake. And I'm like, absolutely not. And I actually told her, go and look at some of my videos and show how the red sense
Yeah.
hooks up, how we actually fall
That's
asleep, how we do all of this
that's
stuff.
that's lawyer paranoia, and I don't think that that policy has stood up anywhere, but it does come up like a bad penny periodically.
Yes.
Because it's a terrible idea.
It's
No,
so
you
easy
don't
to
need a
sleep when
babysitter to,
someone's staring at you. Like,
right. It's creepy.
Right?
Nobody wants
Honestly,
that.
like it was so hard to like when you go in center, you want to sleep so badly just to get it over with. And it's so hard to teach yourself how to sleep in
there's
center
those
in
who
a
can and
chair.
those who cannot,
There's
indeed.
the
I
lights are on, there's noise. I do
Right.
dialysis at home and it's just peaceful and quiet how I want it to be.
Exactly. All right, we are at the end of our hour, so I would like to thank Christina and Michael and
Thank you
Jen
guys.
for sharing so generously of your experiences and helping folks who might be contemplating this understand better what it might mean and how it truly is possible to feel way better than you might feel
Yeah,
in center.
It is
I
the gold
mean,
standard.
night and day better, to kind of coin a pun there.
it
And
really is.
I would also like to thank our sponsor for this webinar, Fresenius Medical Care, for making this possible. We recorded this. It will be on Home Dialysis Central. You can point people to it anytime. And I am certain that we will have you all back to talk about something else at some point because you are always wonderful guests and we love hearing your story, and your positivity is just wonderful. And also, I would pretty much do anything to get to see your palm skis again. So, yeah, we'll have to do this again soon. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. And
Yeah,
honestly, to everyone tuning in, like this dialysis stuff, it can be very scary. And so be proud of yourselves for checking this out and checking like being you're taking care of yourself, you're protecting yourself for the future. You're going and learning this information. And so that's amazing. Like you're already on a good start.
Thank you
absolutely.
guys for coming.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye guys.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.